In this presentation, we'll be going over the features and functions of the AppXtender Document Manager, which is the thick client application used to access the documents within AppXtender. We'll be covering version 16.6. Now, there's a couple of ways that your organization may have distributed the icon to click into the application. It may well be on your desktop. On mine, it's not actually on the desktop. It's on my little taskbar down here. But another way to get to it is go to the Open Text Program group and click on Document Manager. You'll need to work with your IT team to make sure you understand where the icon is. Now, if I click on Document Manager, it's going to prompt me for a login. But if you're using Active Directory, which is your network username and password to log into AppXtender, it's going to automatically log in for you. So you'll simply skip this step. But I'm going to log in as my Bruce demo user. And once it logs in, you'll see that on the left-hand pane here, it's displaying the applications that I've got access to. Now, this list of applications doesn't equate to your organization. This is my demo app, and the list of applications may vary between users depending on what your organization has given you permissions to. As you can see, I've got access to accounts payable, accounts receivable, business office, human resources, loan documents, and student records. And we've got the main menu system at the top and the toolbar menu, and we'll be going over these as some of these become enabled when we do particular operations on the documents themselves. So let's go and search for some documents. I'm going to search for documents in my loan documents application. If you expand the plus sign here, then it expands to show you all the previously saved queries. We'll be going over that in just a moment. But in order to run a query within the application, if I go right-hand mouse click over the loan documents to get the context menu and go New Query, and then it brings up the search criteria at the foot of the screen. It adds another panel. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to search for one of my loan numbers. You paste that in. So when I run that, and it's a simple search, it's going to display the search results. Now, what you can do, these are panels. If I go in between those, I can expand that to give more visibility to the search result. When we start displaying documents, you'll see that you can move these around to size them to focus on what you're particularly doing. So now I got tabs here. So this is the search results. It's got 24 documents that it's found. If I go back to the search, then there's my criteria. Now don't forget we can do wild search. Card search is something we covered in the web training. So if I start with, if I do 92 asterisk, then that means everything that starts with 92. If I do 92 with an asterisk before and after, it gives me all the loan numbers that contain 92. And you probably guessed it already. If I do star and then 92, it does everything that finds everything ends with 92. So that's just a couple of things. So let's just try that out. If I do 92 star and press the search button, then here it brings up all the search results there as well. Okay, so a couple of things that you can do here as well. If I go a list of values, then you can actually put a list of values in there. So maybe I'm just focusing on a couple of loan numbers here. We'll paste one of those in, we'll add it in. Let's grab my other loan number here as well and add that in, and you can get a list expression and search for it, and it will display. Notice we've got 41 results now because it's displaying the results from 2 loans. Another thing that you could do, if I go back to the search results, let's just clear that out. So we can delete all, go back to here, that deletes everything out. So let's do a search expression now, which is the other thing. Now that's between, so I want to, different types of comparisons. So I've got search between, greater than, less than. So if you're gets a bit more conditional logic to some of the values that you're finding. In this particular scenario, what we're going to do is find all the documents that have a loan date between a certain date range. So I'll do this, and let's do 30. Now what this says is give me all the loan dates here between the 1st of June and the 30th of June in 2003. Then if I press the search there, then it brings me all the search results and the loan documents between those two ranges. Now, a couple of things that you can do. You can do multiple application queries. Now, for applications that share common index values, you can do a cross-app query to search over applications. Some business scenarios, it doesn't make sense to do that. You need to work with your IT team to see whether you have any common applications that you could perform cross-app queries, or indeed you have permissions to, but that's sometimes a useful feature. Another thing that we can do here is, if I go back to the search results, I may want to save this. This might be a useful feature, a useful query that I want to rerun. So you notice next to the search button, I can hit save. Now I can do my document manager training query. Let's give it a name so I can identify it later. By default, it's only available to me, but if I click this checkbox here, it will be available to all users who have the rights to that application as well. Let's click that, and you'll notice that my DM training query has shown up there. So if I come up here and expand it, you'll notice that all I have to do to rerun that query is simply click on the query itself. It displays the search results, and off we go. Now, when you've got the search results here, you can actually reorder the columns a little bit. So if I do right-hand mouse click again on one of the column headings, then I've got the ability to hide columns or do settings, which gives me the ability to switch columns off and on there. And when I do that, I can actually save the column. So this is something I'm finding yourself you're doing every single time you go within the application. You can save that, and that's personal to you as well, so it doesn't interrupt how the other users want to see those applications. I can actually just simply drag and drop the columns as well by holding it down and just dragging the column to where I want it to be displayed within the column list. So let's work with some documents. Now, to open a document, you simply double click on it, or you can go right hand mouse click. The right hand mouse click will also give you access to some of the features that you have rights to do. There's another way to get to those features. If I double click on it to display the document, you also get access to the same features within the document menu and the page menu, and we'll go on over those in just a moment. This all looks a bit cluttered because we've got several things going on here. So now we're into the mode of working with documents. We can do some sort of resizing here. Now, the first thing is we probably don't need the application window for a while, so you can actually switch that off under the view menu and it disappears. We can switch it back on again, and there it is, or you can resize it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch it off for a moment to hide it, so I can just have the whole screen to work with the documents. I'm also noticing that early on in the training we resized this window because we were working with the search results. But now we want the real estate back, we can just move that down to the bottom, and there we are. So we've got much more space to work with the document, and you've got these icons here where you can say fit to window, fit width as well, to actually display the whole document, so you can have much more space to work with. You can also view the thumbnails as well. So you can just click on these and that will display the different pages. There we go, we can open that and go down the different thumbnails there. One of the nice features of the Document Manager is that you can display multiple documents at the same time. So let's just open 2 or 3 documents. Now, it's kind of hard because they're all sort of sitting on top of each other, very similar to Microsoft Word when you've got multiple Microsoft Word documents open, for example, that they're all kind of behind each other, stacked up. You can get access to them for the window menu. But one thing I like to do is use the cascading windows, so you can see all the documents there, or you can make them side by side, so you can actually kind of work with the documents side by side. So let's just say, let's close a couple of these documents, just say we're working with these Um, Let me get those windows back. There we go. Working with these documents side by side now, I can zoom in on some of these to really compare them. Zoom out, it's a bit far. So you can really kind of get to working with the documents side by side. This is one of the main benefits of working with the desktop client rather than the web, is you can have this multiple documents. So if you're really going to work with documents, then it's a great way of doing it. Couple of other features, I can rotate. You see me zooming in and zooming out and resizing the documents within the window. And also you've got a little magnifying glass. If you're really doing looking at drawings or something that is really, really fine or detailed, then you can kind of get really into kind of the detail of it. You can see it's the magnifier just zooms really is like a much finer zoom, so you can see things a little bit more clearly. There are some features that we can work specific to the document. Let's close one of our documents here and just focus on one. And let's display our thumbnails again by clicking on the view window. So this is very useful, and one of the ways to really navigate the document manager is to use the view menu to hide certain panels so you can really maximize the space to focus on what you need to. I've got my thumbnails down here, I've got my index values, and I've got the main document window here. Now, just like on the web, I can use my document menu. Again, these will be slightly different functions depending on your permissions. But I can do actually do a new document, delete, duplicate documents. So if you find something that's you want to recreate with different index values, you can do that. Do version control, export it. Excuse me, the mail document, mail the pages or mail the reference to the job, or copy and move pages around. So you've got all the functions of that. You can also manipulate the actual document. So I can do a new page, so I can do it from a clipboard or scan from a scanner to replace a page or reorder the pages, delete a page. I can add a new version to a page. So that gives you a number of features to manipulate the document itself. And I can also down here, now my menu, my items are down here, my annotations. Yours may well be up here. It really depends. These can move, you can move these around. I just happen to move mine below the document because I find it personally easier to work with. But you can move these around. So don't panic if they're in a slightly different place. It's just where I've decided to place them. Now I can do all sorts of things just like the web. So I can highlight, say, the principal amount here, and I can put a text here to say this does not look correct. I want to display as an icon. I can go advanced and maybe display the icon as a slightly different color. And there we go. So we've got the principal amount I've highlighted. I put a little note there. Annotations are something that you aren't actually burnt into the document. They're really overlaid on top of the document, so you can have different types of permissions. How you organize that permission is really down to your IT group and how the system's rolled out. But I can have some users on this document that don't see the annotations at all, some see them but can't edit them, and some that can edit and delete them. So you can have different levels of permissions if you really want to collaborate on documents as a team. And I can switch on and off those annotations. I can save those annotations as well. So it gives me a lot of power to work with the document and annotate the document so other people can see what the comments that I make. So let's go and add some documents to our application. There are a couple of scenarios here. One is just adding a simple document in. We'll go over that. It's just you add it in, you index it, and off we go. We have to have the index value so we can search by it. The second scenario is slightly more complex. That's around where you have, say, 30 pages that you scanned in, but they're associated with 3 different documents. So you have to index things in a batch, and that's called batch indexing. Now, you may or may not have permissions to these depending on how your IT team has set this up. So what I show you is depending on whether you have full edit permissions on the various features. Now, we've been working with the querying and viewing documents, so we have the query window open. We need to get back to our application view. As we talked before, Document Manager has these different panes that you work with. It's a good idea to turn things on and off. It takes a bit of getting used to, but it gives you more space to work with. So on my view menu, I can view my applications, which brings this guy back, which allows us to drive operations at that level. I can also switch that off here, click on the icon, and that brings up the same view as well. I know, and we're not doing querying right now, and that's taking up a lot of space. So what we can do is simply click the X button or take it off here. From the view menu, I'm going to click it there, and that gives us much more real estate to work with. Also, with doing operations against applications, you may want to make sure it's the default application. When I go right hand mouse click, you'll see that there's a set as active application. You'll notice that I've just made the AR application active. It's bold. You can see that denoting it's active. It's the active application. I'm going to add documents to my loan application, so I'll make that the active one. To add a document, I simply go right hand mouse click and go new document to import a file, or I can scan. I don't have a scanner attached to this particular machine, but I'm going to import a file. But if you did, you could select the scan option, and that would initiate the scan and perform the same operation. So here we are, going to select my document here. Now you'll notice that there's various pages here, and we need to index it. Now, I've deliberately shown you this view because it just displays the document. We need to make sure that the indexes are on. So if we show indexes, which is this icon here, then it brings up the ones we need to enter in order to save the document. The reason why I started without, sometimes it does disappear, sometimes you switched it off because you want more viewing space. If you're adding documents and you don't see the indexes, make sure you press this button here to display them again. Let's go and index this document. I'm going to add it to a previous loan. It's done a lookup on that. So that's a feature that may or may not exist within your application. It's in my demo one. It's a nice feature. I've entered the loan number and it said, well, I've got all these other information against that loan, so I'm going to automatically populate it for you. And all I need to do is say that this is a part of the credit files document type, and then I go and save my document. That document is now available to be searched by other users within the system. Okay, now we've added a single document. Let's add a batch of documents. I've got a blank screen here. So what I need to do is get back to my applications list. I'm going to select the icon this time to do that. And here's my list of applications. My loan documents is already set as my active application. So the batch, all the batch functionality is in the utilities menu. So I'm not going to do a right hand mouse click, but whatever I do here will operate on the active application. So that's why this becomes even more important to make sure that that's set. So let's go create a batch first. So I'm going to go and create it. I'm going to select my documents and Bruce test for Document Manager, let's call it. I open it up and it's imported it. It's just giving me a screen saying everything's imported. I exit that. That's great. Now, the import and the actual indexing operations are split, and there's a reason for that, because if you have it allows you to have one person doing the importing and multiple people doing the indexing. So you can kind of, because it's a more labor intensive operation, it does allow you to add multiple resources on that. So here we go. I'm going to utilities and go to my batch index, and here it is. There's Bruce test DM. We're going to go and index that batch, and that displays the document. Okay. In this case, or I should say, the list of pages. I'm going to hide my applications list because we don't need to worry about that right now. I can add a. What we may need to do here is display the thumbnails because they're quite important in this operation. And I'm going to go. Let's go create a document. So let's get my loan number back in. And we'll do this, and there we'll save it. When I save it, the attach operation So I've created the core document. Now I can just add the pages on the right hand side. If you notice, as I'm clicking add pages, the pages are removed. So there we go. That's all I need to do for that document. I add another document, create another document, and here we go. I paste it in, index my document. It's doing the database lookup, and you simply save it and add the pages to that one. So you can build up your list of your document structures from the list of pages that have been scanned in or imported in. You may want to use some of the query results in some sort of report to management or an Excel spreadsheet or something like that, because AppXtender does store some useful data. So let's show you how you can achieve that. We need to go back to our application list now, which I click on the icon, gives me my application list back, and we need to do this from the search results. So let's do my DM training query. Let's double click that. That's the query we created earlier, and that brings up the list of results here. Now you can export these results to a CSV file, which can be manipulated in Microsoft Excel, that gives you some sort of more powerful capabilities in manipulating some of the data. Two ways you can do that. You can hold the control key down and just highlight certain values, documents here, and as they highlighted they go to blue. Or you can say, I just want to select all the results. So you created your complex query, you've got the results, you selected the columns you want to export, and if you go right hand mouse click now, you'll notice I get a save as option, and then I can call it whatever I want, and then you can open the CSV file in Excel, and off you go. So let me do that, and then it goes back to the search results.